want to get your thoughts on what the attack in Manchester.
Well, first of all, our hearts go out to everybody who was involved in that. And I have 3 kids who are in their 20s. If they'd been there, that's exactly the kind of event, the kind of concert they would have been at. And I spoke this morning to the Consul General and just expressed my sadness and my concern on behalf of the people of the Commonwealth. Said if there's anything we can do to help, I just wanted her to give me a call and let me know. But it is a terrible tragedy and just another example of why we need to continue to be vigilant as a country and as a community about domestic terrorism.
Anything we can do here in Massachusetts?
Well, we've had conversations with our colleagues in the federal government on a regular basis, and people talked all night last night just to be sure there wasn't any concern with respect to a threat here in the Commonwealth, and there isn't. But we're taking additional precautions across our public transportation systems and at the airport just to be sure. And we'll continue to be vigilant throughout the day and throughout the rest of the conversation that will take place over the next couple of days between us and the feds and folks at the local level.
Well, our public safety agencies already do so much to keep our events safe. Then you see something like this where someone attacks a large group of people outside the security perimeter. What kind of concerns does that raise?
Well, there have been issues with situations like this in in airports, for example, where people have set off devices outside the security of the inside of the airport. Generally speaking, Massport has a whole series of procedures that they pursue that create what I would describe as sort of a random set of safety precautions, both around the airport and around the port generally, which are designed to make sure that they're constantly changing the way they secure and protect their property and the people who are there. And we'll continue to do that.
Does
Last
that
question.
expose a hole that maybe we need to focus on as we go into the concert season now?
Well, obviously, we're going to be taking additional precautions with respect to concerts generally. I know the folks in the city around the Boston Calling concerts have already talked about that, and I'm sure this will just encourage them to up their game with respect to that as well.
Thanks, guys.
Specifically around the outside of the concert?
I'm not going to speak to the particular strategies or tactics people are going to use because that would just be a mistake. I mean, what I can tell you is that people pursue a whole variety of strategies, and they do try to make sure that those strategies are not predictable, so that people aren't in a position to be able to gauge or judge exactly what the security efforts are going to look like. Some of them involve uniformed officers, a lot of them involve plainclothes people, a lot of them involve technology and security, surveillance, and that type of thing. But this is obviously a very high priority for us, and will continue to be going forward.
Governor,
Thanks,
the White
guys.
House released the president's budget plan today that assumes a 3% growth that some people are calling unrealistic, and also proposes massive cuts of over $800 billion to Medicaid over 10 years. What kind of impact could that have on the state?
Well, there are 2 pieces to the cuts on the Medicaid side. The first is the cuts associated with the Affordable Care Act proposal, which we've already said we don't support, and we're going to continue to work with other governors and folks in the Senate to ensure that Massachusetts and other states like ours are protected. These would come on top of that. So obviously we're going to continue to make the case that this is not the right way to go, not just for the people here in the Commonwealth, but for people generally. On the NIH cuts, I said before that I don't think we should be cutting the NIH budget. The NIH is an enormous source of inquiry and discovery, not just for this community, but for this country and for this world. A lot of the key research that goes on in eradicating disease and illness is driven by the work of the NIH. Same goes for the Cancer Institute, and we're going to continue to advocate on behalf of those programs and the institutions that do that work, because that is in fact some of the best work that's funded by the government.
Beyond Medicaid expansion, if they do cut the general Medicaid program by some $600 billion as proposed here, I mean, what would the impact on universal coverage?
We're going to start with an assumption here that we can work with others through this process to ensure that Massachusetts can continue to be a national leader in both inquiry and research and in healthcare coverage whenever this process finishes. But our goal at this point is to make sure we do our work with the delegation and with other states that have similar concerns and circumstances to ours to ensure that we have an organized effort of advocacy on this. But from my point of view at this point, our goal should be to make sure we make the best case we possibly can so that this stuff doesn't happen here in the Commonwealth.
Thanks, guys. Where are you going?